Okay, so you've got through the pre-screen interview, and now we move on to first interviews. Typically, the first interview is going to be with probably somebody in HR. A couple of things to bear in mind here. The person in HR that you meet with is not going to have a level of knowledge of the job, of the role itself, that the hiring manager does. You can't expect them to. There are just way too many people in the company, way too many job functions. They're an expert at their job function, but they're not an expert at the hiring manager's job function, unless, of course, it's an HR job function. So keep that in mind. Bear in mind also that your typical HR person, sweeping generalization, but it's just the way it works, and I can speak to this with my experience in with predictive index, behavioral profiling. Your typical HR person tends to be quite process driven and a collaborator. Essentially, make sure that if they have a process that they're following, that you run with it, because that's going to check off two boxes. And that is going to allow you to use a little bit of affinity bias in your favor. Your answers are necessarily going to be high level, not too high level. Get into the detail that you need to wherever possible. Before you get too far into the interview itself, though, it is very important that if you do not know what the problem is that you're going to need to solve, you ask. If you go back to the video on decoding the job description, if you think, well, it doesn't matter. If you think you've decoded the job description, or even if you don't think you've decoded the job description, ask about it. What is the problem that you need to solve? Why am I here? You could get into something like, well, the last person left. Great. What was the key objective? Or lead the person with it. I see that you mentioned quite a lot on sales operations here. How is the sales process? Are you finding that you're losing business because you don't have a strong enough process? Lead them through it and see if you can pull something out from there. If you can get to that level of detail and that level of that level of problem solving, that's always going to get you into the next interview. Okay. So talking about the next interview, let's talk about the next interview.